You're listening to Bad Dog Agility, bringing you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility.
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Esteban, and this is episode 213. Today's podcast is brought to you by Elite Science. Dog agility can be hard on your dog's body. Help keep their joints and muscles healthy with 1-TDC. 1-tetradecanol complex is a clinically studied blend of unique fatty acid oils that can support your dog's joint health. All of our listeners will automatically qualify for a great 1-TDC special offer by purchasing online at bda1tdc.com. That's BDA, the number 1, TDC.com.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by hititboard.com. Hititboard.com has the innovative training tools you need for agility. Having problems with the dog walker A-frame? The Hit It board can fix that. Your dog doesn't like tugging? They'll love the Tug It. Can't move your A-frame around by yourself? The Move It can. Go to hititboard.com and use the discount code BDA10 to get 10% off your order. That's hititboard.com.
Jennifer and I are pleased to welcome the 2019 Westminster Masters Agility Champion, Perry DeWitt. Perry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Perry, you won the 20-inch height class and the overall title at Westminster, and this was with your border collie, Verb. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about both you and Verb?
Sure. Let me see. I guess I'll start with Verb. He is my second border collie, my second real agility dog. I got him from On Target Border Collies out in Vegas, and he was one of those dogs that the first time I saw him, I knew he was meant to be my dog. I knew I had to have him, and sort of the rest was history. I went out to meet the puppies when they were 5 weeks old and had my eyes kind of looking at a couple of the other litter mates. And as soon as I walked in, literally it's one of those love at first sight. And I was like, this little gawky black and white puppy, he has to be mine. And thankfully the breeder let me have him. And he's literally been the perfect dog for me in every way since I got him. And he's been so easy to train. He's the exact sort of right amount of sensitive for my kind of training style, and he just works for me. And he's easy to live with. He's easy to train. He's easy to be around, and easy good in the house and all that kind of thing. And so I think because we have that sort of really special bond that everybody kind of hopes for with their dogs or their agility dogs, we've been able to accomplish quite a bit. I am a dog trainer by profession. I've been training dogs for probably over 10 years. Got started in dog training with a really super naughty German Shepherd Husky mix who I thought, back when I was a kid, I was in high school when I got him, I thought I knew everything about dog training. And I was like, I'm going to get a challenging dog because I can train any dog. And then I was like, oh my God, I cannot train this dog. So I had to get some help and ended up getting hired by the place that I took him for training. And that was a little bit sort of old school and traditional style, which I quickly learned was not for me, and kind of grew from there. And then after experiencing that difficult dog, I was like, I need to get an easier dog. I'm going to get a border collie. And that's when I got my first agility dog. That was Goose. And he seemed quite easy compared to the other one. But once I got Verb, I realized that he actually wasn't the easiest agility dog. And so was able to really experience kind of that really smooth training and, entering competitions with Verb. But since then, I've started to teach more agility. And probably at this point, I'm doing less obedience training, and I was doing in-home pet training and behavior training a lot before since I was more successful in agility, and now I'm teaching probably 60% agility, 40% pets, and kind of transitioning away from doing as much of that kind of training.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and knowing it 5 weeks, that's remarkable. Pretty sure I knew Sarah longer than that before I knew that she was the one. But getting back to Verb, I've had my eye on Verb for years now. I still remember the very first time I saw him, which I think was at tryouts for the Agility World Championship, Team USA. He's a remarkable dog. So let me ask you the things that people are going to be wondering about. Number one, how old is Verb now?
He's 5 and a half.
Oh, okay. And so he's right there in his prime. Mm-hmm. And number two, is he a breeding dog?
He is. He has 3 litters, 13 puppies, and one of which I have, one of which Jessica has, that we adore and are excited to start showing a little bit more coming up. But he hasn't been bred a ton, but he is I would say he's proven himself as a stud dog, at least with our two puppies. And I've seen a couple of the other ones, and they all seem to be really doing well, and their people really like him.
Yeah, don't be surprised if you get a couple more messages about that. In the coming weeks and months. And then you mentioned Jessica. So tell us a little bit about Jessica, because, that name sounds familiar to us here on the podcast.
Jessica is my partner in training in life. And we've really, I think, brought out sort of the best in each other in a lot of ways, but in agility for sure. I think we're really complementary of each other's strength. We've been able to sort of expedite our own agility growth because of that. She's taught me so much. I like to think I've taught her some things too. She's one of my biggest competition anywhere we go. And so there's always somebody that, I'm trying to beat, and she's trying to beat me. And it keeps us always trying our best, always, we're always helping each other, but we're always trying to beat each other too. So it's like the best way to get the best out of any competition, because we're like, this is, offering advice, offering handling solutions and things like that. And then going out and trying to do our very, very best and put the best times out there. So it's like, even at the local trials, we're improving and having that little bit of extra kind of push that you don't always get when you're just, going along for your points for nationals or tryouts or whatever. So that's been really, really cool. And I think, she's helped me so much in understanding dog lines and things like that and handling. And I think both of us have sort of different backgrounds in training. So putting that together has been really, really cool and helpful in our growth.
And for people who aren't aware, Jessica Ajou was the Masters Agility Champion from last year at Westminster, and that was with her dog Famous. And she also made the finals again this year. So tell us, what was it like running against her head to head going into the 20-inch finals? And I believe Famous was seated first, right? And then Verb was seated second. Yeah. So you run reverse order. So you're running before her. You put down the monstrous run, great run, clean run, like 32:05, I believe. And then Jessica's running to try and repeat as the champion. So first, let's tell me what you're thinking. What was going on in your mind before your run? What do you like to think about? What's your routine? What do you like to focus on? And did any of that kind of pop into your mind at any time?
Yeah, so I have a very, not strict, but I have a very important sort of visualization process I go through, which I find very difficult to do. I'm very easily distracted and kind of not the best. It's amazing that I can do agility given sort of my personality and that. So I've learned how to do, some people, there was a guy at the IFCS World Championships last year that was kind of jokingly making fun of me because I hide my eyes to try to block out sensory things, so I can really focus on the course. And I picture the course from the start to the finish from my perspective, actually visualizing the dog, the connection, every single thing I'm going to do, not just okay, I'm going to do a front cross here, rear cross there, blah, blah, blah. I'm picturing everything. If there's ever any tiny blip in the visualization process, I make myself go back to one, and I do it over and over and over till I can go through it with no problems. And I hate doing it, but I have to do it. Otherwise, since I always get nervous every single run, even at local trials, but much more nervous at big trials. And if I don't do that, I can't do agility. So it's almost like I go out there and it's I've already done the course so many times that it's autopilot. And then I come off the field and I'm like, what just happened? I don't even know. And since I started doing that, I've been much, much, much more successful. For the final run, I had a really hard time doing it. And I don't know if it was because I was just burnt out from having to work so hard. 2 runs for me in a day is almost the max, mentally that I can handle to really do well and to put everything that is needed for me to focus on it. And so I was I'm really having a hard time doing this course. And I think in some ways, if I think the course is easier, not that it was easy, but if it's things that play to my strengths, I don't have to work so hard, and that can get me into trouble. If I'm oh, this is easy, I'm good at all this stuff, then something will go wrong because I'm not as connected or whatever. And I was I don't know if it's because getting to the finals was kind of my goal. And I was of course I'm trying to win, but I'm not I need to win. So when I got there, I was okay, I kind of feel I did what I came here for, and I couldn't really get the focus down, but I was able to do it. It just took me a lot longer. And it was almost the commercial break before that last group of 20 inches one, I'm all right, I need to get this down. I need to get it in my head. And actually, I think I didn't really have it, and Verb kind of saved me at one point. And that's everyone's favorite clip of when they're showing him like being all focused. He's looking left and the jump is to the right, and he lands and changes leads and goes out. In the moment, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to go off course. I'm too far behind. I released him too early. I wasn't far enough ahead, but he was like, I know what you mean. I got this. And I was like, thanks, buddy. But that was, I think, because of the fact that I didn't quite have it in my head. I mean, I had the course, of course, but like the fine, the little details like that make a big difference in when you're running a fast dog. So I don't know, maybe some of that was because, I'm competing against Jess on national TV, and I'm like, I don't know really even what to think about this. So I just went out and did agility, and I thought if I win, that's awesome. If she wins, that's cool too. We're going to, be happy either way, happy for one another. And sitting there watching her run, she went off course in the beginning of the run. So I was like, oh, I guess that means I won. But, up until that point, I was really on the edge of my seat, but also really out of breath because I was like, that course had a lot of running. So I was like barely even recovered from it before she started. And then she was finished and they were interviewing me and I was like, oh my God, I can't breathe. And it's going to be a fun interview. So I don't know if that answers your question in a roundabout way.
No, yeah, it totally does. Do you remember what your interview question was from Jennifer Hale?
Yeah, the first one was, he's so focused. Was he born this way or did you create it? Which I answered, he was born this way. But of course, I've tried to foster it as much as I could. But he really is a good dog. I mean, he's always the same. I mean, it's rare that he loses his stuff before a competition. He's very internalizing. He's never like out. He never barks. He never freaks out. I mean, I can make him go crazy if I want to, but he's just in control of himself in all the time in life, in agility. And it's not like he's not driving. He's just he's like inside himself and he can control himself like crazy. And I am not as good at that. So he's been such a good teammate for me because I'm always freaking out, like always nervous. My heart's like beating out of my chest and he's just like a little rock. I don't have to even like, I warm him up and all that, but I don't have to make sure he's like mentally ready. He's always ready. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, even as a young dog, he just, we won steeplechase Pheno Sport when he was 2. And I was never expecting, that's kind of when I was like, this dog is something special because he didn't care about any of the crowds. He didn't care about any of the, in nationals, there's lots of dogs and he's a 2-year-old intact male, totally fine, not caring about a thing and acting like he's been doing it his whole life. It's like he was born already doing it, kind of. He is naturally very focused and I trained him, but it wasn't hard.
That's awesome. Now, I know last year you were at Westminster as well. And this year I felt like the crowds were a little bit bigger. So what did you think of the crowds and how did you kind of deal with moving through there, especially around finals time?
Well, I guess the one thing about Verb that's not my favorite is he's very into other like sniffy, he's an intact male, but he's very wanting to sniff every single dog. So that was a little bit annoying, but that's how it is at every trial. But the people didn't make a difference. I mean, if I needed to, I'd just pick him up and carry him through. But he's not affected by the crowds at all. I mean, he's not affected by anything. It's crazy. And I like the crowds. I think it makes it more fun. And, it's a little challenging to get through. But like I said, it was more the dogs than the people because he wants to say hello to every dog. So I just scoop him up if it was too many people in a small space. But I enjoyed the cheering and all that stuff. I think he did too.
Yeah. Speaking of cheering, tell us a little bit about the awards presentation, the actual whole big deal. That was Tuesday night?
Monday night.
Monday night. Okay. And so did you just kind of hang out there? Like how far is where you live from the venue? Did you go back and forth? Like how did that work out? And what was the awards like? We did go back and forth because we had to come home to tend to the other dogs. But we got the dogs that are to come back for Monday night. But it was fun. I mean, they had a little agility demo set up, which I don't know if you guys saw the video. It was a tire, a tunnel, and a jump, which I did in one direction and then reverse the other direction. And poor Verb, when I turned him to do the back jump, he fell on his face and I felt bad, but it was very quick demo. I did some tricks with him before that the crowd really liked. I was just warming him up and it was cool. I mean, to be on the Jumbotron and with all those, tons of people there. And it was definitely a new experience and one to remember. And actually my favorite part was we were in the bench. They had all the best of breeds lined up for people to come see and meet. And so Verb got to like ham it up with all the kids and people. And it was fun to, we don't get to see a lot of kids and like do a lot of that. And he was
so nice and sweet with the kids, and everybody loved him and he was doing tricks. And I really enjoyed that part of it almost more than going out and getting the award.
That's awesome. And what has the press been like for you? I assume that you've been photographed and interviewed several times. You might have some more lined up ahead. You know, you're doing this podcast with us. What's all of that been like? The media attention.
It's not been super crazy, but I was actually a little bit nervous about it because I'm not super comfortable doing all that kind of thing. I mean, I'm fine doing it, but it's been fun actually so far. I did a live interview with CTV, which is like the Canadian version of CNN. But I don't know if anyone saw it because it was in the morning. But that was probably the biggest thing I did. I did a live FaceTime interview. It was like a last minute thing. I was in the middle of teaching a lesson and we set up a little tripod and did this like live news interview for all of Canada to see, like our national broadcast. That was kind of cool.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And I'm going to bring Jennifer in now here because Jennifer actually also made the final. She is the 16-inch winner, and she was the 16-inch winner last year with her Border Collie Pink. And Jennifer, we've talked a lot in the past about how important Westminster is for the sport of dog agility, not just here in the United States, but in my opinion, around the world. And even though it's not as big as, say, a national championship event, you know, we're looking at Westminster. What are we looking at? Like 330 dog max, right? And most of your agility nationals are going to run, at least for the American Kennel Club, are going to run between 1,000 and 1,500 dogs, depending on where in the United States it is that particular year. And so obviously, you know, there's going to be a little bit more competition at these larger national events. But still, it's really big for the visibility of the sport. It's been moved up from Fox 1, I think 2 years ago, to Fox, the Fox, like Fox where you watch NFL, you know, football games, and Fox again this year. Last year, we're looking at 1.5 million people who tuned in. And this year, the numbers aren't out yet. So we don't have the numbers. So hopefully by the time I write the blog article, we'll have some numbers for you guys. But really big for the visibility of the sport. So Jennifer, what do you think about Westminster and kind of where dog agility is in the United States today?
So I think the airtime and the publicity that Westminster gives agility is awesome. And I think that AKC is doing a great job of structuring the event for people watching. I know there's a lot of controversy in terms of how they do the scoring and who makes it to finals. But I think, you know, one of the things that people have to keep in mind is if we only showed a few of the top breeds, if we only had, you know, Border Collies, Papillons, Shelties, you know, out there in the finals, then anybody who's watching it at home says, oh, well, I don't have one of those three breeds. This isn't for me. So I think the variety of breeds, the variety of handlers, all of that is so great. I know this year, Rudy, the Bulldog, really kind of took the internet by storm, and people loving to see Debbie's videos. And coincidentally, she's actually a student of mine. So we're all big Rudy fans around here, but it was great for the rest of the world to see it. You know, we saw Westminster on many of the late shows, Jimmy Fallon, and you know, I know, actually, I think I saw Verb's clip on one of them, right? Wasn't he on Jimmy the Tonight Show? Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I believe I saw him somewhere. Yahoo Sports had some clips they were sharing. And I think, you know, the more and more people that see it, and the more that we do have the handlers sharing it and their family and their friends seeing it, the more it's going to do for the sport. So I think the way that they're doing things is fantastic. And I anticipate that the numbers will just keep growing. So I'll be anxious to see what the total numbers were once you get those in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I had no idea before, I don't know, a couple of days ago when this whole Rudy thing happened that, and Rudy's handler, wonderful person, by the way. We had dinner with her the night before the competition, right? So if you want to do really well, eat dinner with us the night before a big competition. The rule of thumb, eat dinner with Bad Dog Agility. But the Bulldog is actually one of the top 10 breeds. These are 2017 numbers as far as registrations for the American Kennel Club. You know, the top three being the Lab, the German Shepherd, the Golden Retriever. But then you have the French Bulldog and the Bulldog, the Beagle, the Poodle, Rottweiler, Yorkie, and German Short-Haired Pointer. So nowhere on there do you see Border Collie or Australian Shepherd, right? Perry, what kind of clients do you typically get? I know you said that you were doing a mix of kind of pet stuff, and then now you're doing more of the agility stuff. But even in agility, aside from Border Collies, like what other breeds are you seeing up there in the Northeast?
I actually have less Border Collies than I think other breeds. Not, you know, I think over the largest percentage is probably Border Collies, but I have a class that has like a pointer and a Vizsla and a Toller. I have a lot of sporting breeds, a Chessie, and of course the other, like I have corgis and shelties and things like that. But
yeah, that totally makes sense for the region too, right? Like sporting dogs are going to be really big up in the Northeast.
Yeah, tons of sporting dogs. And then border collies. Yeah, I guess I do have a lot of border collies too. In terms of pets, I see lots of doodles, lots of pit bull mixes and things like that. That's all that we can get in our shelters up here. I used to see tons and tons of bully mixes when I used to do more of that type of training. But I haven't seen a ton of them in agility.
Yeah. So one thing we always say after Westminster is all the instructors out there listening to this podcast, get ready for some phone calls, right? You're going to get some interest from the public. And I think you want to be welcoming to these people. You want to be great with the newcomers. You want to exercise a lot of patience. And in my opinion, you kind of want to get them a little taste of the sport. I know that for the past several years, people are very big into foundation and doing a lot of flat work and a lot of work away from the equipment. But I think for a lot of the newbies, right, who saw it on TV on Westminster, it's kind of nice to get them, like, I don't know, through a tunnel or on a jump or something kind of quick and early to develop that hook, that interest in the sport that keeps them coming back, not just for your foundation class, but your intermediate class and your advanced class. And maybe eventually some portion of those people are going to, trial someday.
I'll add in and 100% agree with that. Just from teaching so many classes, we actually, our novice B classes are separate from our novice A classes. So like we have a level 1 for novice B and a level 1 for novice A because of exactly what you said. They see it on TV and they think their dog can be running that course in, 6 to 8 weeks and they're ready to go. So trying to give them a little taste of it to keep them interested and keep them sticking around is always a great idea.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Actually, when I was in high school, I actually had a border collie before I was even into, maybe that's how I got into training because it was so fun to train him. But I saw agility on TV and I made a course in my backyard and I trained my dog. He did jumps, he did weaves, not very fast, but I went to a class and it was terrible. It was so boring. All they let us do is nose targets. And I never went back. I did the class and I never went back to it. And I probably could have started in agility then if they had let me. I was like, but he can do that whole course. Please let me try it. And of course he couldn't have, but he could have done a jump in a tunnel. And they would never let me do it. And because it was, the first foundation class. And so I didn't go back and I didn't get into agility till like 5 years later because I couldn't get hooked. So I think that idea that you're saying, Jen, that you do is such a good idea. It would have been so much better if they were like, here's a tunnel jump sequence. And then over here, we'll do, some real foundation stuff. And so I agree with both of you on that one too.
Man, that is such an amazing story. So all your instructors out there, make sure you get that. Now, Sarah had written in here that Verb had an injury that you had to recover from, do some rehab from. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, last fall, Verb had an injury, and it wasn't really an injury of like something specific. He was a little bit off, and I went and did all the things, like got the ultrasounds, and they never found anything like, oh, he tore this or he has this strain. It was kind of like just general overuse things on like 3 of 4 of his limbs. He had minor strains, and so really I just wasn't taking care of him the way that he needed to be, and I learned a lot from that experience. I've been working with David and Rhea Asiani, and Susan McIntyre is a PT by me, and they've trained me to be better. And it's not like I wasn't taking care of him, but I wasn't doing what he needed. I wasn't doing enough. And actually, at the time, I was doing a lot of exercising him by playing ball and frisbee because I lived in the city, and that was like the only way to actually get him running. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have anywhere to hike him, and it was like I was like, I need him to be in shape, so that's how we did it. And he's not crazy, he's not out of control. He never jumps and lands weird for the frisbee, but it wasn't the right thing for him, and I think it's probably not good for a lot of dogs, but I don't do that anymore. And ever since I changed that, I found a place that I can hike him. And me and Jessica just moved to a place that is right behind a big arboretum. So we let the dogs run, 4 or 5 times a week, just like sprinting off leash, not chasing anything. And I think that's probably the biggest difference. I don't think he got injured necessarily doing agility. It just was too much repetitive things, whether it was training or fetching or whatever else. And he's been fine since then. I was very conservative. I kept him off for, I think, 4 months or something, and then slowly brought him back. And every checkup he's had since has been pretty good. So I think I figured out what was the problem and made the necessary changes to keep him sound.
Nice. Has that had an impact on how you take care of yourself? Would you consider yourself an athletic person? Do you have a routine, a personal trainer? Tell us a little bit about that.
I do consider myself an athletic person. I played a Division I lacrosse through college, and that was kind of my passion. Well, dogs were always my passion too, but that was like my sport passion then. And actually, funnily enough, the ride home from my last lacrosse game in college, I was like searching the internet for a border collie and found Goose, and then bought him 6 weeks later. And that became my new sport, agility. But no, I don't take care of myself the way I take care of my dogs. We try, but I tend to be very cyclic in my working out. So in the summer, I'm in pretty good shape. I go for runs. I do these, not anything crazy, and then as the winter comes, I really start to not be so good at that. We actually do have a personal trainer who we love, but we have to meet outside, and we live in the muddy, snowy, rainy, gross Northeast. So we see him probably once a month. So no, I guess the short answer is I don't take as good care of myself as I do at Verb, but I try to stay in shape. Especially right now, I'm not doing as well as I could. And I do feel the effects from it. I mean, when I was younger, I wouldn't be sore and things like that if I wasn't in the best shape. And now it's like, all right, this is getting out of control. I need to start working out again, and at least jogging and things like that. But when we do work out with our personal trainer, we tell him the things we need to do for agility, like fast footwork and side shuffling and things like that. And so once we get going with that a little bit more, I think it'll be helpful. And he's very accommodating of our strange requests. And sometimes Jessica and I go on runs and do front crosses and hope that the neighbors don't think we're crazy as we're spinning around on the street.
That is awesome. And if I were up there in that cold, I would be indoors 100% of the time. That would definitely have an impact on my training routine for sure. All right. So before we let you go, can you tell us what's next for you and Verb? Like, what big competitions do you have coming up? Are you going to AKC Nationals in Tulsa? What's going on?
We're not going to AKC Nationals in Tulsa. Unfortunately, we didn't quite do enough AKC to get qualified, but we're going to the IFCS World Championships, the WAO World Championships, and also the EO. And we're going to World Team Tryouts in May. So we have quite a busy Netherlands-filled summer, as every event is in the Netherlands this year. But thankfully, I really like the Netherlands.
So all three of those events, like you're just going to go up there and just stay for like several weeks, or
we're going back and forth 3 times, but probably should have just stayed, but unfortunately must work. So I have to come back.
I hear you. So you mentioned the WAO being one of those competitions in the Netherlands. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing internationally? So when we look at Verb's international career, kind of coming into his own.
Sure. So the highlight of his international career was actually winning a gold medal at the WAO last year in the Games Challenge. He took the overall for the snooker and gamblers combined, which was very surreal and really, really cool to be up on that podium with the American flag next to, one of my agility idols, Yanita from One Mind Dogs. And so that was probably that was definitely the top thing we've done. He also got a team bronze medal at the IFCS last year. And we made finals for EO last year, but it was a little bit, we didn't actually have the time fast enough to make finals. We were the top US dog, so we got in for that. And then made a mistake that actually helped me quite a bit with the Westminster finals, because there's a similar challenge that I was much more aware of the difficulty for him. So that actually helped me for this one.
Awesome. And I think you had just said that you will be at the Agility World Championship Tryouts, Team USA, for the FCI as well. Okay. Yep. And someone refresh my memory. Is it on the West Coast this year? Is it in California?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that I will be at that this year. Probably not. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how Getcha does at Nationals. But I'm not expecting to be there this year. But they live stream that event typically, right? I'm looking at Sarah now and asking her all these questions. But I think they do live stream that event. Yeah. And so, anytime I can get a chance to watch Verb, I do it. I do it. I enjoy watching Verb. Most recently, before Westminster, I saw Verb live at the European Open Team Tryouts. That was in December. I think that was in Latrobe, Pennsylvania this past year. So that was pretty phenomenal. I always enjoy watching him run in person.
Thank you.
All right. So tell me, Perry, where can people find you if they want to, if they live in the area, they want to take agility classes with you, or they want to find you online?
That's a good question. You can find me for pet training at phillydogtraining.com. And for Agility classes or lessons, I don't have my own website. We're sort of in the process of making something like that. I teach a lot for Y2 canines, and you could potentially get into classes with me from their website, y2k9s.net. And I teach for another agility place nearby, High Octane Agility. So you could find me there too. But really, my email address is probably the best way to reach me, which is my name, perry.dewitt@gmail.com. And once I get a website going, I think it'll be a little easier.
Awesome. Well, definitely let us know when you do get a website. We can add that back to the show notes page. So people listening to this podcast, several months from now, will have a website to go and visit.
Cool.
But thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us here on this podcast today.
You're welcome. It was a lot of fun.
And that's it for this week's podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Elite Science, hititboard.com, and also NTI Global. New year, new gear. Visit shop.ntiglobal.com for the widest selection of dog agility tunnels for both competition and backyard training. Tunnels are made from durable vinyl and black ring color. Known for free shipping, more options, high quality products, and low prices, NTI Global has got you covered. They also offer tamer and anchor weight bags, along with a full line of accessories and agility storage solutions. Need your agility gear in a hurry? Don't forget to check the in-stock selection. Visit shop.ntiglobal.com and use promo code BADDOG2019 for 5% savings off today. Promo code good through February 28th, 2019. Happy training.